Prix Imola Grand Prix, a triple header on the horizon, and rumors. This is Into the Chicane, a Formula One podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Channing Apodaca. The man across from me is the new father, the one and only DJ B. Wood.
What's going on?
How you doing, bud?
Doing great. You know, off, no race this weekend. Mother's Day. Got to spend a little extra time with the family, which was great. So.
Oh, yeah, your first Mother's Day.
Yeah. Well, technically, it's not my day because
right.
I'm not the mother, but, you know, it's still fun.
Well, it's your first Mother's Day as a father?
Yeah.
Okay,
you know?
cool.
Yeah.
You had a nice little Mother's Day post I saw you do. You had Oliver. Oops, sorry. We have to bleep that out.
It doesn't matter.
All right. You had the baby doing some predictions on Instagram. It was nice.
Yeah. You know, there was a lot of rumors and stuff flying around this week about some of his favorite drivers, so he wasn't too happy about that, but we can get into that.
Big rumors. Before we get into that, we have a triple header coming up these next 3 weeks. We took almost an entire month off a couple weeks ago. We decided to take a week off, and now we have 3 straight weeks of Formula One action. I'm excited. This is going to be a good one. We have this weekend we have Imola, followed by Monaco, and then Spain. Monaco can suck a tit for all I care. It's going to be a nice, glitz and the glam, but then we're going to get to Spain. That's the one I'm most excited about out of these 3. I think that's one of the better tracks on the entire calendar. But before we get to either of those, we have, ready? I need to read this. The Formula One Qatar Airways Gran Premio del Made in Italy e del Emilia Romagna 2023. That's too many words. Get it the fuck together, Italy. You know that has the actual record for the longest Grand Prix name in the history of Formula One.
I'm not surprised. Why is it Italy's fault, though?
Because that's the most Italian shit I've ever heard. Why don't we just add a bunch of... What do we do? It was Italy, yeah. This is how my nonna would do it. We just throw a couple more words in the pot, stir it on up. A little mozzarella, a little bit of fajoule. Bada bing, bada boom. We got ourselves a Grand Prix.
Where I'm lost is the sandwiching in of the Qatar Airways.
Yeah, so that's what brings me to... Qatar Airways and it's like Qatar Airways. What's the other big sponsor of F1?
Aramco, Saudi Aramco.
Aramco, yeah. So that's probably why they do it. They just ram that up our fucking asses. Do you know the name of the metropolitan area that Emilia-Romagna resides in?
No.
It's actually called the Bologna region of Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
nice.
the Bologna region. So here's what I'm presenting.
Okay.
I think that while F1 is trying to continually tap into the American market, they are leaving a lot of money on the table by not branding this race. Hear me out. Oscar Mayer presents the Bologna Grand Prix.
Oh my, that would be so sick.
That is money on the table. There's not an American alive that wouldn't be watching that.
Seriously, I mean, like everybody would be turning back to their childhood of all those sandwiches that their mother packed for them. And, I think it's something they could really latch onto. They can
nix the F1 theme going into the start of the race and just replace it with My Bologna has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. You guys know the song. Sing it with me. My Bologna. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, leaving a bunch of money on the table, I think.
I mean, Oscar Mayer's a wholesome brand. They may not have the same kind of money as Qatar Airways.
I don't know.
But I think they can make it happen. They already have the Oscar Mayer mobile. Right,
exactly.
So they are kind of already like one foot in on the automotive.
Imagine the pre-driver parade with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, or you replace the safety car with the Oscar Mayer Wiener.
Yeah,
is it the Wienermobile?
Yeah.
The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile with big yellow lights on it, weaving around the track.
Yeah, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile with the front wing and the rear wing on it.
With Max Verstappen behind us. The safety winner needs to pick up the pace. The winner is going too slow.
The safety car is
I think so sick. That's a great branding opportunity. All right? Yeah, let's hear it out. But other than that, we have basically just a bunch of rumors in in the little bit of off time that we've had. So, not a whole lot of change happening in the teams, not a whole lot to report on there. But we do have the Twitter sphere, the F1 geosphere, going pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, this one is a little bit more confirmed than some of the other rumors, but the word on the street is, I mean, we've been hearing about Honda, being reintroducing themselves into the engine manufacturing scene potentially for 2026, and it's been basically confirmed, aside from a formal announcement, that they're going to be partnering with Aston Martin for 2026.
Yeah. So before this announcement, they were saying they wanted to stay in the engine manufacturing game, but didn't have a team to manufacture an engine for. And it was kind of like, is AlphaTauri gonna? I was thinking, at least, is AlphaTauri going to stick with them? Obviously, they wouldn't. They're owned by Red Bull, and Red Bull now owns Red Bull Powertrains, which is overseen by Honda. So that's where this, it's this weird,
Yeah. Well, they had been in talks about potentially doing that partnership with Red Bull again, but from what the word was, that Red Bull wanted to maintain more control over the whole program, and that wasn't really what Honda wanted to do. They wanted to have actually, input on the project, especially if their name was going to be on it.
And that's why Red Bull Audi fell through, right? Or was it Red Bull Audi or Red Bull Porsche?
No, I mean that was a separate deal, I think. But
that's why
a similar thing, I think.
Because they wanted, because one of those, whichever one of those teams it was, wanted a 50-50 stake.
It was a similar thing. So and then Red Bull ended up doing the deal with Ford, was more of like a sticker for cash kind of a thing, where they just pay to have the branding on there, which. A team like Honda, they weren't really
little Ford
into it. Yeah, so
a Red Bull launch event.
So of the other teams that were looking for potentially a new engine partner for 2026, it was really between Aston Martin, McLaren, maybe Williams.
I don't think Williams is going to break their tie with Mercedes anytime soon.
Yeah.
I could see McLaren going to them, because I think McLaren wants to break their tie with Mercedes, but they also have a really dark history with the McLaren Honda days.
It didn't go well when they tried it before.
Right. Which, I mean, it's a completely separate. Honda has completely reinvented themselves in the Formula One game.
And the McLaren teams, the whole organization's changed so much since then. But
I think it's crazy how Honda has bounced around in F1 so much these last few years, because they had left F1 after having they had a factory team, and then they became just an engine supplier. That went bad, and then they came back and partnered with Red Bull for a few years, and then said they wanted to get out of Formula One because of the backlash from environmentalist activist groups and emissions from motorsport, and now they're wanting to get back in.
Yeah.
Literally a year or two later. They've just gone like this.
Yeah. Well, amongst the environmental things, they also wanted to just cut back on their spending, which is why, or at least spending on these types of programs, which is why they decided to withdraw going into 2022. But then as soon as they withdraw, they go on to see their engine go and win a championship, dominate. And that's why towards the end, when they went the Japan Grand Prix in 2022, we saw the Honda branding back on the Red Bull, was because they wanted to make good on that partnership that they had. So, and Red Bull ended up walking away with all that technology that they developed, and so
they bought all of it.
So, and at least in the IP and all that stuff around it. So,
so that means with them wanting to stay in, it's interesting. They're going to have to create a whole new product, because
100%.
Legally, Red Bull owns everything else that they had previously created.
Yeah.
I have to assume, though, that it's going to be pretty similar. They're going to find some workarounds to whatever legalities they have to do to make sure that their product isn't the exact same as a Red Bull powertrain's power unit.
I mean, there's going to be completely new regulations for 2026.
True.
So different fuel. It's going to be a lot more hybrid, or more, I should say, electric heavy, motor package. So
I do think, so you have a question on here, who's the best team for Honda's partnership is. I think it is Aston Martin.
Without a doubt.
They have no reason to be powered by Mercedes right now. Mercedes is also pissed at them because they're outperforming them. And they basically have not the exact same. I speak to black and white. They have a very similar aero package to the Red Bull team already. So if they have a similar power unit to what Red Bull's putting in their car right now, that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that they're going to be similar. I think that we're going to see some divergence between like what the Red Bull powertrain team's going to be able to do and what like Honda, will do.
We could potentially see this powertrain be even, or this power unit be even better than what Red Bull has now.
Yeah.
Honda's the team that developed it. They could take it just one step further. Meanwhile, Red Bull powertrains is sort of just potentially maintaining what they already have.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what they have in the pipeline for 2026. Yeah. Like, I don't know who they have.
You also have to try and, you kind of got to think that Red Bull wouldn't have gone and bought the IP if they didn't have a plan to keep developing it and didn't have a team in place.
Yeah. And with the Ford partnership, you're like, okay, well, there might be some kind of input from them.
Now they just got buku bucks too.
Aside from money, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm interested, especially because Aston Martin, there's been a lot of money going into the team. And they've been spending a lot building this new facility, this new wind tunnel that they haven't been able to use yet. So once they start implementing that into their development of the future car, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And then, more talk about 2026. Fernando Alonso's contract will be up at the end of the 2025 season, right?
Yeah, so does Aston Martin, Is Alonso going to stick around until then, or do they have to start looking at, okay, who's our next top driver to replace him? And if so, who is that?
I wouldn't be shocked if he stuck around. This is Fernando Alonso we're talking about here. This guy, you're going to have to pull him out of that seat to get him to quit. Unless he's gotten his championship. I think the second he locks up a championship, he's going to step out of that car and never step foot back in another race car ever again.
Yeah, I mean,
probably not going to happen though, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's showing no signs of slowing down, right?
No.
So he's only he's gotten better over the past few seasons. Yeah. He's like this season, he's completely locked in. I think mentally, he's very strong, and I don't know. Like it's. I think it's really up to him whether or not he's gonna stick around. If he does leave, he decides to go out. On his own accord, like, who do you think is the best? I mean, is that even worth talking about? Like,
sure, we'll talk about it. If he were to leave, I think the obvious first choice is Felipe Drugovich. But whether or not the team wants to go that way, I think is going to be dependent on who's available at that time.
Well, yeah, I mean, by then, Lando and Charles are both going to be available.
So if they don't have contracts, then the obvious choice is going to be Felipe Drugovich. If not, I don't know that Charles would go to Aston Martin. I don't know if I could see that happening.
Why? Why Aston?
I think in his eyes it would be more of a lateral move or a step back, even though Aston Martin is outperforming them right now. Mm-hmm. Just because Ferrari is Ferrari, I think he would have to go to Mercedes or Red Bull for it to be a step in a forward direction. Like optically, you get what I'm saying? Like, yes, Aston Martin is having a great season right now, but does that make them a top team for the long term? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's something for him to consider, but I also think he's going to be like, aside from just how it'll look, like he's going to want to be in the best car available to him, right?
Sure.
Potentially. So,
but that's what I'm saying is like it's going to come down to how that team looks in 2026. And then same for Lando. I could see Lando going there before I could see Charles going there.
I can see that, yeah. I mean, his position with McLaren is more...
It's on such much shaky ground.
Than Charles is. So, I don't know. It'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Speaking of Mercedes, former Mercedes driver Valtteri Bottas, an article came out in the recent days that he said that he's planning a long F1 career ahead of contract talks. Completely the opposite of what I was saying last week, that I think he's done in F1, which I say good. If ever I want to eat my hat, have to eat my own words and be wrong about something, it's whether or not Valtteri Bottas is going to have a longer F1 career. I don't want to see him leave this season. I like Val. Just so long as he's going to actually show up to every race and compete. I don't want to see him phoning it in like he did in Baku. But if he's planning to stick around for a few more years, maybe that means that he'll be with the team till at least 2026.
Yeah, I think he's a good asset to have for any team, right? I mean, he may not be, amongst the group of the most elite, but he still has tons of experience. He's very popular amongst fans.
Yeah.
Commercially, that says a lot, or plays a lot in his favor. But, I think
he's the only Scandinavian on the grid too. Unless you consider, is Denmark Scandinavian?
I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, because then you'd have to with K-Mag.
But
yeah, you cover a region of fanship. I don't know if that's the word for it. Fandom.
Yeah.
Give those people someone to root for. And Valtteri's just an all-around good guy. You can't not like that guy.
Yeah. I also think he's in a situation, though, where it's like he can't really...
He's in no man's land.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean, that Alfa Romeo is anywhere from 20th to 10th at best on any given day. So he's literally just floating around outside the points.
Yeah.
Searching for probably a handful of points on the season with no upward trajectory. He's just sort of he's a little bit of an in-between until 2026, basically, and he's helping develop the car.
Yeah, and I don't think that like any team's going to be looking at him as like a must sign.
Yeah.
I feel like he's not going to have like a ton of options coming up. As far as like what when he's talking about his contract extension, I feel he's going to kind of like not to say he's going to take whatever he gets, but
yeah, he might just be on a little bit of like one of those bridge deals, 1 to 2 year for the next few contracts, and probably won't get more than 2 of those.
Yeah,
if he makes, I would be shocked. I wanted to talk about this because I was surprised to see that he had it in his mind to even stick around till past this season, because it looks to me like he's clocked out, and I don't know why a team would really want to keep him other than the fact that he is a safe option and he has a lot of experience to help a developing team continue developing their car. So that's the only good factor for Alfa Romeo to keep him around. Other than that, they could put a young Ferrari Academy driver in that seat and give somebody a chance. That could be who's the young Ferrari guy that they got right now?
What's his name?
Not Arthur Leclerc. They have the other one.
Schwartzman
And Teo Pocher.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. In F2 right now, it's Ollie Behrman and what's his name? And maybe it's Pocher.
Damn, how many Academy drivers does Ferrari have in F2? Nice. So yeah, I would like to see Valtteri at least stick around for a little bit longer. He's got one of the best helmet games in F1. And this next little bit, what were you gonna say?
I was getting one of the best mullets, but
he's got the only mullet.
Yeah.
Fernando kind of has like one of those Spanish mullets. Like every now and again, he'll let the back
grow out a little bit extra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This next bit you brought up to me. I hadn't heard this yet.
Yeah, so this was actually happened before Miami. The Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi was in a interview in France where he basically characterized his feelings about the team's performance this year as amateurish, and made the point that they are not learning from their mistakes and have kind of set the team off on a bad foot this year.
What mistakes exactly is he talking about? Because, yeah, the Alpine team hasn't looked amazing. I do think that they have looked better. They also have a brand new driver in his first year with the team.
Mm-hmm.
So what mistakes is he particularly talking about?
I'm not sure exactly. I think he's just more commenting on not necessarily the drivers, but the team around, back at Enstone where their facilities are, and just kind of like some of the structure of the team. Like, I'm sure he's not happy with Otmar and how he's been handling
a leadership and a strategy perspective.
Yeah, and and the whole thing that gets me is just like I hate when the bosses try and throw all their employees under the bus.
Yeah.
As if he didn't hire everybody or wasn't in charge of like putting everybody in place to like, you know, be in this situation. I think, you know, especially, you know, I mean, he kind of took charge maybe, what was it, like a year ago or something like that. So we're seeing, you know, this year is a result of a lot of the changes that he himself made a year ago, you know, and we've seen nothing but like fumbles, you know, with the whole Alonso and Piastri situation last year. Like, yeah, it's just like, if you're the CEO, you know, of the, you know, of the team and of the you know, the whole racing operation, like you should be taking some responsibility about what's going on. Because I know for sure if they were up there like performing you know, they had, their goal was to be fourth car this year. It's not happening. Mm-hmm. But if say they outperform that and they're like sitting in third, you know, what's the chances he's not going to be the first one out there talking about how great this is and like all these great decisions that maybe he made. And all
that's like a chef staring at like a pile of slop ingredients and being like, what the fuck is this? It's like, you cooked it.
Yeah, you put everybody together and to make the situation happen. So you should be the one person that's like using the we instead of like
instead of them.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, it's lame.
Interesting. That's a team that like I wouldn't even say that they have like all these issues. Like they had a really bad Australian Grand Prix, but it's almost like they haven't really got their feet underneath them. Like their season's kind of just been in limbo a little bit, just literally a middle of the pack.
Yeah, a lot of little things like with Esteban's like barrage of penalties he got. And what was that, the first Baku, and then what was that? Was that Australia? Pierre's like restart, or he kind of got like
he hit Esteban. He took his own teammate out.
Yeah, and that. I guess that's kind of shit that just happens, you know. But
right, that's what I'm like. Yeah, it might look bad on paper if you were to write all these things down. You bring it to Otmar Snaffauer, you go, "What the fuck is this?" You know.
Yeah.
But it's like some of them are racing incidents. That's what happens when teammates go head to head, especially in a chaotic race like Australia. The Esteban Ocon thing, that was like really like a one-off bit of just fuckery. All those penalties and that, and the rest is just they haven't been anywhere near the podium. Like neither have 8 other teams, you know?
Yeah. You know, and the idea that like going out and like saying these kinds of things in the media, you know, I don't see how this helps the team. I know from what I understand is that it wasn't taken very well by the people in the team, which is big surprise.
I don't imagine Otmar Snaffauer hearing this and just bending over. I can picture his face beat red, just kind of laughing it off.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know what this clown's doing, but
interesting. I wonder if it's one of those things where, you know, you say it with the intent of, you know, lighting a fire under the team's ass. Because a lot of times that's why, you know, I think Lewis does that a lot. You know, he did it earlier this year, and we kind of applauded him. Mm-hmm. You give constructive criticism, forcing people to have to listen, and now you make it a thing by doing it publicly.
Yeah, but do that in private in a team meeting. Don't do that in an interview to French media.
We'll see how it works out.
But yeah, so apparently, you know, one of the things we've been looking forward towards this weekend, it's been kind of long talked about. Mm-hmm. We've been hearing a lot about, it's in the pipeline. We just got to wait. You know, we're looking forward to the, you know, when these upgrades come. But Mercedes, a lot of changes coming into this weekend.
Bringing a big upgrade package.
So they haven't given too many details, but you know, right before Miami, Toto said new side pods, floor, and front suspension. So
wow,
those are some pretty huge components.
That sounds like a completely new aero package almost.
Yeah, so people are saying like, oh, you know, they've been saying Mercedes has been putting out that, you know, oh, well, you know, with the new regulations, we're not able to have like a B-spec car like we used to. When they had huge budgets, they would be having a second car that they're also developing. Mm-hmm. But for them to be able to like unveil this, what some people see as pretty quickly, like, okay, did Mercedes actually already have one in the works and they just weren't completely honest with us about having a B-spec car? or is this just like a matter of like them pushing to make something happen quick?
I think that the rumor swirling is really going to start for how they were developing this car after this weekend. If this thing comes out and is a bullet, people are going to go, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Wait, how
Let's
long
pull
have you
back
guys
a
been
couple
working
of
on
these
this?
curtains and see, if it is dog shit, they're going to go, oh yeah, you guys you started on this, last week? But I think that's great for Mercedes. It'll make the fight, if it works out for the best, and I hope it does, it will make the fight for second, and who knows how good it could be, possibly first on the season, a lot more interesting. I think more competitive cars is great. So losing Mercedes, down the field order has been not as fun this year.
Yeah, I want to see more battles up front.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, like we have seen battles like around that like 2, 3, 4 spot of like for each constructor, but
yeah. And the 8 and the 4 were battling last week last race with Magnussen overtaking Charles Leclerc. That was a good one.
Yeah, so we love to see that kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's like want to see,
I wonder if this, with them getting new side pods, I wonder if this is the end of the silver dart the entire concept of
getting rid of the silver.
Well, not the silver, but just like the side pod list, the narrow body.
Yeah.
I mean, they did say that they were planning on scrapping that whole
concept. Yeah,
right.
I think is smart, but
I wonder how much time they're able to develop upgrades, because it's been about a month or more since they first started talking about scrapping that concept altogether.
Yeah, and I'm sure this new concept that they're going to be going with is something that's been in the works for a while, but those things take time to make happen, and there's certain like budgets they're working in now, so
very, very interesting. We'll see after this week how that goes. Especially, with what we expect to see potentially at this at the Imola, Romania, Qatar, Bologna Grand Prix this weekend. Which we'll get into. It'll be interesting for Mercedes to be debuting new upgrades amongst all this shit.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time we're at like an actual like full on like non-street circuit. It's going to be full on like race circuit, so it'd be a good place for them to do it.
It's the first major upgrade of the season too, right? Because I know McLaren did a couple small ones.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bull had changed their floors a bit, I think. Possibly a little bit of side pod, maybe some rear wing, but small little tweaks by each team. I think this will be the first major package, which good. It's time to shake things up. We're about almost a quarter of the way through. Let's get freaky. Now, I think this next bit, I think, is the biggest story that's been swirling around. Nick DeVries has officially gotten a warning from Helmut Marko about potentially being replaced at AlphaTauri. Nick DeVries, as we've said over and over again, has had an absolutely abysmal start to his first full season in F1.
I don't even know if you can categorize it as abysmal, because
I don't think it's been anything far off.
Yeah, I mean he's finished better than Sargent has through this season so far.
Yeah, I mean nobody's writing home about Sargent's season either.
Yeah.
That's not a benchmark.
I know, but there's 3 rookies, right? You got Piastri, DeVries, and Sargent.
But of the 3, you would expect Nick DeVries to be doing better than all of them, and he's behind Piastri. He's had more sessions in an F1 car. He is the most tenured driver out of all of them. He's got 2 world championships to his name, if not 3. He might be the 2-time Formula E champion. No,
just one. Yeah.
And then a Formula E championship. Yeah. I don't think he ever won an F3. Maybe some other, weird series. But regardless, I think you expect more from Nick DeVries. That's why it looks worse for him to be back there, and especially to be getting outperformed by his teammates so much. So these rumors coming are not really that big of a surprise to me, especially knowing who operates that team. Look what they've done in the past. They've kicked Daniel Kvyat off. They have kicked Pierre Gasly off. They've shuffled Alex Albon from a full-time driver to a reserve driver, this is nothing new. They will pull that trigger on you like that if you're not giving them results.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole situation is just weird to me. Like, you know, Yuki, you know, I love Yuki, but this is his third year. You know, his first couple years didn't go great. He wasn't necessarily under the same pressure.
No, but I think it was a different situation for Yuki because
he was a part of their driver program. They were developing him.
Exactly. He was a Red Bull Academy driver, and also there was his performances in practice and in qualifying sessions were so much better than his race sessions. That's where you were really seeing issues with Yuki's first season or so was in the race. He was wrecking, you know, overcorrecting things, but you could see that he had potential and he had pace. Nick DeVries just looks lost.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's metrics other than race performance that they're using to make this call, you know, but at the same time, it's like it just feels irrational to give him only like you know
a handful
of
a
third of the not even a third of the season to be able to prove himself.
Yeah,
you know, and so it's like, one, does he deserve more of a chance? Number two, does putting him under this kind of pressure where they're like, hey, over these next 3 races, if you don't perform, you're out. Is that even fair to do to him?
Does that do?
What? Yeah. Does that extra pressure, you know, make it harder for him? But I mean, you know, in the reality of the situation, it's like, you should be able to handle the pressure, but
we also don't know if this is even true. If Helmut Marko actually said this,
I think he did. I think it's pretty.
I'm not saying that he didn't, because that's a very Helmut Marko thing to do, but we also don't know that. I think where a lot of the speculation comes from is Daniel Ricciardo was getting a seat fitting.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be driving the RB19 at Silverstone this year, right? He's going to be doing some testing.
Yeah, he's a reserve driver.
Exactly.
They should have a seat that's fitted for him.
Exactly. And I think that the rumors really started swirling because people saw him getting molded and they were going, oh my God.
Yeah, and
are they gonna replace?
And he was in the area of where the AlphaTauri headquarters are, but apparently he was there for a wedding.
In what, Mugello?
Something like it. But apparently he was there for a wedding, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, that's it's not. There's nothing really to that."
He was there for like another driver's sister's wedding or something, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's a perfect storm of media fodder. That is, I hate to say it, but a big we'll see.
Yeah, and so the other potential replacements for him would for De Vries would be Liam Lawson or Ayuma Uwasa. So Lawson, I think, is the more logical choice. He's the more experienced. The problem is he's in the Super Formula championship right now, and he's contending for the championship. So, if he gets the call to take the seat, he would end up having to lose or miss a couple of the Super Formula races because of the schedule overlap. So,
but at the same time, Iwasa is leading or is in second in the F2 championship.
So,
So should the feature races not coincide with whatever the Red Bull team wants him to do for AlphaTauri, should that be the case, it might interfere with his championship also. The only one it's not going to interfere with would be Daniel Ricciardo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so then that brings me back like how irrational this whole decision is. It's like,
are you going to disrupt these two guys' seasons and their development in lower series just to prove a point to Nick DeVries?
Yeah, and then you're going to put Ricardo into the how does that? What kind of sense does that make long term?
Right, and then what are they going to do when any one of those three gets in the car and has similar
issues?
And Yuki Tsunoda is really the only one that knows how to drive that car.
The whole thing just reeks of just not being the best decision making.
That is what Red Bull does, though. That is what Helmut Marko does. That's what that team is cutthroat. You could probably argue that getting rid of Pierre Gasly a few years ago wasn't the best, most rational thing to do.
I mean, the best decision he ever made was hiring Checo.
Oh, yeah. It really was. It really was. None of the other drivers that they had in their lineup were capable of being on Max's ass the same way that Checo has been.
Yeah. And then today I was seeing that apparently De Vries isn't the only rookie, potentially might lose his seat.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah, so there's word, or I should say German media is reporting that Toto Wolff is looking to convince James Fowles to replace Logan Sargent, who hasn't been doing too great this season with Mick Schumacher.
The first thing that catches my eye right there is German media. Of course, some German media outlet is going to go, oh, well, why don't we put our driver in this seat? I think Logan Sargent, I don't see any validity to this. I think he at least gets his first year. His first two, honestly.
Yeah, but 2024.
Yeah, that's if Mick Schumacher's even a part of the Mercedes team by then.
Well, that's the thing, is it's like, I don't know. In the short term, I can understand why they would make that move or make that play. Long term, I don't understand it. It's like, I can see in the short term for Toto, it would be good to have your reserve driver, or they used to, a couple seasons ago they had George as a reserve driver. Yeah. Fill in, in certain races where he's still in the Williams car, out there doing laps, getting experience. It makes sense for them to want Mick to be in a similar situation where it's like he's a little more fresh.
I think it doesn't make sense. What good does this do for Toto Wolff and Mercedes to lose their reserve driver? He's not.
They wouldn't necessarily be losing him. He would just be in another seat.
He would be on loan to
them, basically.
But he's not a Mercedes Academy driver, though, so they're not developing him for the Mercedes team. I don't think they have any interest in putting Mick Schumacher in a Mercedes in the future.
That's why it doesn't make sense to me long term, because you put him in a Williams for how long, and then what?
Yeah,
is he gonna replace George?
There's no way.
Is he gonna fill in Lewis's seat when he retires?
I think that would be such a huge drop-off for the team. The team's going to go out and try and sign somebody big once Lewis goes. They're going to go after Lando or Charles Leclerc. Those contracts will probably be up around the time that Lewis wants to leave anyways.
Yeah.
Or they'll buy them out like McLaren did. I see no validity to this rumor at all. I think this is a German media outlet boo-hooing because they don't have a driver on the grid this year.
I think that's some of it.
And especially because you have an American, not to bring World War II back up, you have an American
I don't want to go
in
there.
A seat that you could argue is being basically wasted.
Yeah, we'll see. The strong Mercedes ties with the Williams team,
Sure.
It makes sense that they're going to want to, continue to extend that partnership and maybe do some kind of situation like this with these drivers.
I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't see it as much, but it's something to consider.
I would be more willing to accept a rumor of Felipe Drugovich going there and taking that place because of the engine ties from Aston Martin to Williams and getting him in a seat, having Aston Martin push that, you know what I mean? But I don't see why Mercedes would be pushing Mick Schumacher out when he's a valuable asset in a reserve role for them.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 years of F1 experience, he's an F2 champion, and he can bring them a bunch of data, in sim testing or whatever testing sessions they want.
Yeah, and even just Mick's relationship with the other drivers and the team, and just the vibes. I think that all that kind of stuff matters. So
I don't see that happening.
Cool. So should we get into the upcoming race?
Yeah, let's get into the Bologna Grand Prix. So I had heard a little bit from F1 Media that there was a potential for rain going into the weekend at Imola.
I would love to see some rain.
We haven't had a wet race this year, huh?
No.
And the forecast says that it's going to rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with complete thunder and lightning storms on Monday.
Track's gonna be washed out.
Which I think that is brilliant for the excitement that we need going into this race. Going into Imola, Max has a 14-point lead on Checo. So let me paint a picture for you.
Okay, I'm listening.
Which driver comes to mind to you when you think of who is good in the wet? Who's the first driver that comes to your mind?
Max.
Really? He's all right.
Good, yeah.
The first person I think of is George Russell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
George Russell is
had some pretty
great
good,
in the wet.
Yeah.
He's a great wet driver. So there's a scenario where, because Max also, he's good in the wet, probably is going to qualify on pole for this race anyways. So let's say George gets himself on the front row of Imola in the wet. Max is also on the front row. Going into turn 1, George takes Max out. Max DNFs. Checo goes on to win in the much superior Red Bull car.
Okay.
Checo is now leading the world championship by 9 points. Plausible scenario?
It's plausible. Is that your going to be one of your bold predictions for the?
Ooh.
For the.
Yeah, let's jot that down as one.
So let's say Russell takes out.
Wait. Didn't we have a stipulation on the last one that if it comes true, I couldn't remember if it comes true or not, that I wasn't going to be allowed to use Russell makes contact on lap 1 anymore. Either way, we're going to do it. We'll do this. My prediction will be rain, and Russell qualifies top 3. That can make that 1.
Okay, hold on.
Like make that one of my predictions. Rain and Russell qualifies top 3 in the wet. No, make those both,
gotcha.
one. But that's what I was saying earlier about when we were talking about the Mercedes upgrade package, was that we had potential of a completely washed out weekend. And then how you mentioned...
you said qualifies top 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Russell will qualify top 3. But we have Mercedes' brand new package, a potential completely wet weekend, and then the new qualifying format that you brought up. Let's get into that before we finish our bold predictions.
Yeah, so they had announced this a couple months ago, I guess. I wasn't really on my radar until this week, but they're going to be trying out a new format with qualifying this week. So it's going to be like your regular qualifying session, but they're going to be restricting the tires so that in Q1, all teams have to run hard tires, Q2 mediums, Q3 soft. And then teams will have 6 sets of tires for the whole qualifying sessions. And then for the practice and race, they're only going to have 5 sets.
Interesting. That was the first I'd heard of it. It was you dropping that on me. But that is like the new modus operandi, which I believe means standard operating procedure in French.
Latin.
For the FIA to just drop shit. Just to drop new formats.
I mean, they didn't really drop it. That's what I'm saying. This was announced earlier on in the season that they were going to be doing this at Imola. So it was in considerations for people.
Well, it's the first I've heard. So let's see if they actually follow through with that. That'll be. I think that's a good format because actually, I don't know if that's a good format or not. The more I think about it, so you have to qualify Q1 on hards. So slower teams are going to be even slower.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that there's that much of a difference between the teams for the different compounds. I mean, they're in race pace, we've seen a little bit of that, but for qualifying, I don't know. It doesn't. It seems like it's going to take out a little bit of the strategy overall, where teams would traditionally be trying to reserve certain their soft tires, for instance, for a race.
It takes out the ability to basically preserve which tires you want readily available for your strategy.
Yeah, my initial thought is that it takes out some of the strategy. It removes options for strategy to play a part.
This is a little bit like the FIA throwing shit at the wall, I think. It's also funny that if they're dropping this weekend and the forecast is rain all weekend, none of those tires are going to get used, and teams have an unlimited amount of wets and intermediates. I think that's in the rule book.
Yeah.
There's no, you don't get X amount of wets or intermediates. You get however many you need because they're kind of an X factor in the entire tire equation. I don't know how much, that's like a good shakeup. You know what I would want to see is something the opposite of that, where imagine a scenario where the qualifying format is if you're in the top 5, you only get to qualify on hards or mediums. You can't use softs for the entire qualifying session. If you're in the bottom 5, you can use softs or media, something like that.
Yeah.
That would be a more of a shakeup, and that would be more akin to like a reverse grid where they're really throwing wrenches in the equation for like where your standings are is going to affect how you move forward.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of like requiring people to use a certain set of tires at a certain time.
I'm not opposed to it. I would almost want to see it reversed. Like if you make it into Q3, then make Q3 harder. Make that the more difficult session. You're gonna shake things up. So start on softs. That evens the playing field a little bit more. That gives the teams at the back of the order or the back of the standings a better chance of finding pace.
Maybe
potentially,
but
you also
I'm
saw,
not even convinced of that.
Yeah, you also saw how the hard tires reacted all weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another. You guessed it. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look back at the past few years, but it seems like this year they're experimenting a lot more than they have in the past.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that they have so many more eyes on the sport going into this year.
And they're trying to, improve it for the better, but at the same time it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. But also with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it, we've gotten a season where Red Bull's potentially going to wipe out the field and go 24-0.
Yeah, but the qualifying tire, like what tires using in qualifying has no bearing on that.
That's true.
In my mind, it doesn't.
Yeah, especially when you look at like qualifying sessions where the entire 20 car order is separated by less than 2 seconds, like we've seen in the past few races. Like I don't think that. Yeah, you're right. Shaking up the tire usage isn't going to change that.
Yeah,
changing team strategy isn't going to change that. Try and find a way to make overtaking more readily available without DRS trains, because that's what's going to give teams a chance to shake things up more.
Yeah. If they wanted to make the field tighter, there's a lot of things that they could do, and I don't know that this is really the
way to do it.
The way to do it.
Yeah. We'll see. We shall see. Sure. So let's get into our bold predictions. Is that all we have?
That's all we have so far. We haven't really totaled up for the year. We can do that.
Right. We need to go over. We already did our Miami post race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, we just need to do predictions for this week.
My first one is it's going to rain. And are you cool with me packaging this? I'm going to package this because me saying...
it's a little parlay, so you got to hit both things in order for it to... Yeah.
With me saying, I would go, it's going to rain, but that's kind of cheating. I've already seen the forecast, and it says it's going to rain.
It can not rain.
It could potentially not rain. All right, then I'll go the easy route. Let me split these up, and I'll go, it will rain... Oh, boy. It will rain on Sunday. No. It'll rain Saturday and Sunday.
All right, so rain.
No rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It will.
Sunday, and then the Russell thing still stays in there.
I'm going to move Russell. Russell's going to be my number 2. Is that bold enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And my number 3... You go, get a couple in there, and then let me think.
Okay, yeah. So I was kind of thinking, I've used this before, but I feel like we'll see someone new on the podium this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely possible. We're due for somebody new to be up there other than I'm going to say Mercedes is going to outperform Aston Martin this weekend.
Ooh, I like that.
So the combined constructors' points will be better than Aston Martin.
Do you have a number 3 lined up yet?
No, I want to think about it for a sec.
Okay, my number 3 is going to involve Ferrari. I'm going to say that Ferrari won't have a car. Ooh, and this is their home race too. Ferrari won't have a car, or one of their home races, in the top 6. I think it's either going to be 2 Red Bulls, 2 Mercedes, 2 Astons, or 2 and 2, so maybe like 2 Red Bulls, 2 Mercedes, 1 Aston Martin, and a Haas.
Haas, you're thinking
I think
Haas.
one of the Haas's is going to could potentially crack top 6. Or it's just going to be both cars from the top 3 teams.
If there is going to be a Haas driver, it's going to be Hulk, right?
You think? I mean, look at what Magnussen did last week.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Hulk's, aside from last weekend.
Yeah. He's been solid.
So if anybody, it's him. But I'm not going to steal that one. I'm going to say, with the pressure on De Vries, he's going to have his best performance of the year.
Okay.
I don't want.
So what does that mean?
I hesitate to say that he'll be better than Yuki.
I don't think he'll be better than Yuki. I wouldn't. You want to go that route and lose yourself a point? You do it.
Yeah, I think it's bold enough. De Vries, best finish of year.
So what does that mean for him? What would he have to place to get his best finish of the year?
Let's see where he's at now.
He's had a few
14th
last.
Bahrain.
Oh, he's got to place 13th.
14th.
So he's got to get.
So he's got to get to. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, that's bold.
Hey, if anybody can do it,
it's already on the paper. You can't backspace now.
I'll stand by it.
All right, so Nick De Vries is gonna. I almost said Logan Sargent. Nick De Vries is gonna get 13th. I hope that would be nice and exciting.
So then that means Yuki at least 12th.
Yuki will get at least 12th and potentially in the points. But if it's a rainy race, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that kind of shakeup could be the thing that helps Nick get breakthrough, and get his best finish.
And then everybody will go, see, he really does have
all
it in
along.
him.
Yeah, see,
but really, wet race.
We knew.
What I mean?
We knew all along that he was going to do it.
Yeah. All right, guys, this has been Into the Chicane, the Imola Bologna Grand Prix edition. We will check back in with you guys after the race. Peace.
Peace.